Welcome to the Honest Hounds podcast, a place where we shine a spotlight on our wonderful members and their lives with their dogs. We'll be diving into the inspiring, the thought-provoking, and the sometimes emotional journeys that we go on with our four-legged friends. So sit back and relax and be inspired by the journeys that present in front of you. And if you need a community from anywhere in the world for you and your dog, we're absolutely here.
Okay, we are back with another episode of the Honest Hounds podcast, and we might have our biggest dog yet joining us. So a really inspirational story for everyone today. A little tale of quite an interesting journey and lots of things to discuss and lots of things to unpick. But I think this is going to be one that is going to resonate with the big dog gang, but maybe a few other things along the way that people can take. So the first question, as always, is who are you and who is your dog?
Hello, so thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Julia. I live with my partner Tom and our dog Milo. He's about 2.5 years old now. He is a rescue dog. He was adopted at around 10, 11 months old at an estimate. And he was just a mystery mix of all the things. Looked like a really big Labrador. We convinced ourselves that he was a Labrador crossed with a Great Dane because we thought, well, that would be nice if that's what it was. We debated whether there was a bit of lurcher in there. And as time went on, we got more curious and got a DNA test, which unfortunately revealed that he was a cocktail of all of the worst things. So, yeah, I don't know whether to let you know what's in there right now.
Give us a full briefing, and I really hope there's some
Okay.
chihuahua. There's always some chihuahua.
Oh, there isn't. What a disappointment. So yeah, he's 1/3 Belgian Malinois, 15 or so percent German Shepherd, so half herding, protection. And then the remaining 50% is a mixture of Mastiffs, predominantly Neapolitan. He's got a tiny bit of Cane Corso in there, bit of Great Dane, few different types of Staffies, a little bit of Rottie, bit of Dog de Bordeaux. And I remember opening the test results and just being like, I wish I didn't order this. It was terrible.
Oh, no Labrador.
No Labrador, not even an inkling of a Labrador. And we actually ordered that test, Jessie, when we were doing the online reactivity reset because you encouraged us to learn about breed specific needs. So we thought this is a great thing to do. And then complete shock horror unfolded when we saw all of the things that made up Milo.
Well, yeah, I guess there's an element of that, which is kind of, if I were to name kind of the top 10 breeds for a first time dog owner not to get, that'd probably
Yeah.
be my list. But knowledge is power. So once we have him in front of us, it is good to know
It
what
is.
we're faced with. But oh, that must have been quite the feeling, especially when obviously you were on the reset, so you had already joined us with things maybe going a little bit not quite the way that you had hoped. So take us back. You brought him home 11 months, which is an interesting age for a dog generally, and obviously something we see with rehoming. It's quite common for them to end up being rehomed at that age. We're going in, how did you end up with this, what must have been quite a giant dog by then?
Yeah, so he was about 30 kilos by then. He's just reached 40 now, but we think that's it done. So bringing Milo home, I mean, he was instantly reactive to other dogs. We knew that he had big feelings towards other dogs going into the adoption. So if he saw another dog from across the road, the barking and lunging would sort of commence. And we worked on building a relationship and settling him down. And I think we were told to expect that there would be a really difficult bedding in period when he was in a high stress state because everything was changing. But with a bit of consistency and support and trust in us, he would get better. And organically, he did get a bit better. Like the reactivity and the barking and lunging from across the road stopped itself. So I suppose we were providing some level of effective leadership and guidance, but certainly nowhere near the extent that we should have been. Um, we started allowing him to have interactions with other dogs, and for the most part, those were absolutely fine. But there were a few encounters with other dogs where that other dog was stiffening up a bit, and I was seeing Milo's really not reading these signals. Maybe he doesn't know how to read other dogs' body language. And as a result of that, he ended up getting attacked a few times himself because he just wasn't backing away. And then that spiraled into him then becoming more reactive to other dogs. And then, unfortunately, around a year ago, he had a bite incident himself with another dog where he bit them. And that was really difficult and terrible. I think no dog owner wants that to happen ever. No human wants to inflict the sort of distress that a dog hurting your dog can cause. So then we had a really kind of a traumatic period, I would say, of like wrestling with the guilt of the fact that he had harmed another dog, not severely, but his size and his caliber means that the whole interaction was incredibly scary, and he is quite a threatening and imposing build. So we just completely hunkered down and hid away. We stopped all of his interactions. We immediately called a behaviourist who told us best to only walk in places where you can keep him on a lead, best not to socialize him while he's going through all of this. And I thought, oh, it just doesn't sit right in my gut that the solution to the problems that we're having is not to teach him how to socialize properly. But we also didn't know where to go for the right answer. So then the whole sort of social media searching for answers, barrage of dog trainers with conflicting opinions happened. And at the same time, I was sort of frantically searching online, being like, how to overcome feelings of guilt if your dog has harmed another dog. And literally all I could find until thankfully one day I stumbled on Story of Atlas, and that really turned things around, were sort of accounts from people whose dogs had been hurt by other dogs and who were sort of vilifying the owners of the dogs that had inflicted that harm. Um, and that's a very valid way to feel. And like as I said, Milo's been attacked himself, so I understand both sides of the coin. But it just made me feel worse and worse and worse. And as my anxiety and guilt built, I then increased Milo's need to defend me and gave us this really unhealthy relationship dynamic. But circling back to finding the story of Atlas, that was such a salvation. So thank you for getting your story out there because it really cut through the masses, and it was the first story that we encountered after everything we'd been through with Milo that showed us that mind modification for your dog is totally possible, because before that, everything that we could find was early socialization is key. Do this from being a puppy. And we were just like, but yeah, but what if it's already past that point? So yeah, thank you, I suppose, for getting your story out there because it majorly turned things around for us.
Well, I mean, you're welcome. But I think it is amazing because your guys have quickly become one of the accounts that I've loved following back, because since obviously you've come back from the residential, I'm absolutely loving seeing the updates and what you're up to, and the fact that you're kind of tracking it in real time. And this is a little recap. I think it's so interesting to be able to see that. So I guess it takes one to know one. So thanks for sharing. And I think that you've kind of hit on something there as I was listening to you that I don't think I've ever actually kind of sat and reflected on. And I think it's such a good point with, I was quite lucky. All of the things that happened with Atlas happened to us. So I was able to kind of keep it in that stratosphere. And that's not to say that it didn't have its own challenges, but I've not had that side of things where, like you say, you've got all of those emotions and you were absolutely doing your best at the time. It's not like you were the person in the park that's like, oh, my dog's friendly. Oh, sorry, your dog deserved that. It is someone that's putting their all into it who has, I'm sure, gone into it going, we're going to try and do all things right. We're going to try and do the research, as you say, and that kind of extensive Googling and then the differing opinions. And I think it's actually quite an important topic that I'll have to tag Rachel in and get her to do a session, because I can only begin to imagine the complexities of what is obviously traumatic for you because you've got a dog that's exhibiting a behavior that is way beyond not your pay grade, but probably beyond what you expected when you were getting a dog from the rescue. But then, as you say, you've also got that other side of it where you're having to grapple with the other human and their feelings and how is the dog and the bit that comes with that. So I think it's such an important message to attest to, and I guess a good question. And how do we get that support for people, like you say, without there just being this barrage of, oh, well, your dog attacked another dog? Well, it's so much more complex than that. We've all done things and missteps and not seen situations that we didn't need to. And I'm assuming the rescue were not sending you home with a muzzle going, probably keep this on anytime he's around other dogs. So how do you possibly know that that's a situation you need to set up?
Yeah, no, you're entirely right. Um, and in terms of the rescue sort of not sending us home with the muzzle, we called them after the incident, and then they immediately advised us, oh, go out and buy one. They brought us back in actually to the centre where we adopted him from. So they were really good and really supportive. I was like frantic and stressed out. And as we were sort of entering the room we were going into, I was saying, like, should he have his muzzle on? Should he be on his lead? What do you want me to do with him? And they were just sort of like, calm down. He's familiar here. He'll be absolutely fine. You don't need to put it on him. We've reared him for however many months before he came into you. So they were supportive when it came to it, but I think they themselves weren't helped. I think that the homes that Milo sort of bounced through in his first few months of life, because every rescue dog has a sub story and he's no exception, hadn't been entirely honest about the reasons that they'd handed him back. So there were issues which, in sort of defense of the rescue, I don't think they fully understood themselves, and we did find out that some people had been dishonest about the reason for giving him back because we bumped into their neighbors on a walk. So that was another enlightening moment for us. But I suppose our motto with him is kind of been to roll with the punches, really, and take each challenge as it arrives with us.
So I'd love to hear a little more then. So you've got to the point that I think a lot of us can relate to where we're feeling a little bit trapped, and actually the anxiety almost provides a comfort blanket that can keep us stuck in that state. It's a lot safer to stay away and keep away and want to kind of avoid situations. But there was obviously a little bit of your gut that was kind of screaming, no, this is not the end point for us. So what was the bit that obviously got you to standing at the start of the residential retreat with us going, okay, we want something a little bit different here?
Yeah. Well, it was a really big build up to the residential. So we came to the retreat with you guys in February of this year, having joined Honest Hounds in August of last year. And I just knew in my gut that avoiding socialization is not the solution. I didn't know what I was talking about enough to actually articulate the reasons for that, but now I understand that it's all about exposure, of course. Um, so when I found Honest Hounds and saw that there were opportunities to get out on neutral walks, I was like, oh, like what a dream, like a group of people that have got similar issues or like adjacent issues, all working through them together. So I suppose, how did we get to the retreat? and where we are now, it's been a series of little leaps of faith, pushing ourselves to go one step further at a time. So, knowing from the get-go that I want to have a dog that I can trust to be in social settings, and recognizing that it's not a quick fix, and there's a bunch of sort of like almost levels, but also the whole progress is never linear narrative interferes with the levels a little bit. Um, so neutral walks were the starting point. Social walks was the next giant step, slightly traumatic first. Social walk with terrible behaviour from Milo. But at each interval, it's about not giving up and approaching it afresh and tailoring your approach to the situation, sort of as a human, kind of bracing yourself for what might come, um, and accepting that a really important part of the process of progressing is failing and learning from failure. I don't know if that's really answered the question, Jeffy.
Yeah,
I
no,
feel like I
it
went,
absolutely does. And I think it's so important because it's really interesting. We get quite a lot of people reaching out and going, "Oh, I'd love to do a residential. How do I book on?" And we kind of have to go, "Oh, buddy, you are." There's a series of things that we need to do before we can bring you to that event, because it is intense, but it also requires the human to be at a place that they've got the basics in place. And obviously you'd done the 6-week reset with us, so you had the basics on body language and those interactions, and as you say, the neutral walks, something that you'd really settled into. And then I think you were at the point that you were doing social walks with Alex, but he was on lead.
yeah,
And then it was like, okay, well, how do we get beyond that? So we've got neutrality for the most part. We've got him being able to exist. But actually, can we get that autonomy, and can we get him making choices that aren't dramatic and aren't him going, well, I need to do something about this situation and I'm the biggest guy here, so let me throw my weight around. And actually, I think it's such an important point, because it's the 1% gains, isn't it? It's those little bits that add up over time. Whereas actually, I think unfortunately we're still living in a society where for a lot of people they're like, oh, well, if I book into this event, I'll do 3 days or a week or a period of time, and then everything will be done, and we'll just crack on. Whereas actually, as you guys know, that's the bit that kind of starts everything, and then you go home and the work continues, right? And you see those shifts, and it is a gradual process. I think that's such a good thing to be aware of for people that are working through obviously quite complex behaviors, to be able to shift. It's not an overnight fix by any means. So
absolutely.
tell us a little bit, because everyone always gets back from a residential and everyone goes, oh, tell us everything. So you don't need to tell us everything, but give us the cliff notes. How was it for you guys?
So, pre-residential, we'd been doing a lot of avoiding situations that we still weren't comfortable with, and that meant that we didn't really know entirely what we were working with, because that sort of golden chalice of autonomy that you were just referring to, that sort of end goal of letting him make his own choices in 9 out of 10 situations, was so far away from what we were doing. We were micromanaging. Um, so day one of the residential, micromanaging of Milo was not allowed, and he needed to just show his true colors, show how he would act in a range of situations that were quite challenging for him. Um, and he really sort of let it rip, didn't he? He really showed off his worst self. Um, and that was right at the get-go. So yeah, that was really emotionally tough, because we were essentially watching him make poor choice after poor choice after poor choice, challenging other dogs, being pushy, um, being aggressive, to call it what it was. Um, so yeah, incredibly difficult to watch. Kind of takes you back to that place of having bitten another dog, these are the things that I don't want you to do. I can't believe this is all still underlying there after all of this time and all of this work. Um, but that meant because we'd seen what we were working with, or you'd seen what you were working with Milo at such an early stage, that the rest of the residential was all about turning it around. And like what a transformational experience it was, and how empowering it was while we were away, but even more importantly when we got home, to know what to do. And this little weekend completely changed how we live with him in every moment of the day, and taught us how every single interaction matters and adds up to the whole picture of your relationship and your dynamic with the dog. And it just let us drive back down to Newcastle with absolute confidence and clarity of what we needed to keep doing to get to the end goal that we wanted to reach. But I think a really important thing to mention, Jessica, as you mentioned earlier, that it's a process. It's not a quick trip and done. I think the biggest lesson for us has been learning how to enjoy the journey, because we're not going to get all the way there anytime soon, but so much good is happening and we're actually having a lot of fun along the way as well. So yeah, it's appreciating all the little moments and all the new possibilities that are opening up, rather than just feeling frustrated that we're not all the way there yet. So
I
mindset shift for me as well.
Such a nice mindset to have. And I think that obviously that the first day is always a challenge. And I think we do, as you say, we get so good at avoiding and keeping away that we kind of maybe convince ourselves that things have shifted. And then being able to be in that environment, which I know for you guys feels like the worst of the worst, but for us is actually kind of really controlled and really structured, and there's plans and backup plans and all kinds of things. So it's so hard for the owners to see that when they've been avoiding it. But as you say, that the shift that we can have to get him going, actually maybe there's a different way I can exist in this world, and maybe I don't have to have these giant feelings, and it can be a lot nicer. I think the testing to kind of getting the fun back, and him being able to do all the good stuff that his breed wants to do. And he was such an interesting character as well, because he absolutely loved to work. And so typically we're like, okay, we'll do the fun bits and we'll do this. And it's not all about obedience. And then with him, he was like, but I love obedience. It's like, okay, great, buddy. We can absolutely make it all about obedience for you if that's what you want to do. I think it's so nice to see that shift. But it was such an interesting one for us. And you'll certainly stick out in my mind as kind of one of the journeys that we will use as a story of hope, because you turned up with this giant powerful breed, and kind of looking at it going, yep, definitely see the mastiff, yep, definitely see that, yep, definitely see the herding breed, like, and you are not the biggest lady in the world. And so we're kind of looking at it going, wow, okay, this is a lot of dog for a human being who understandably is feeling quite overwhelmed in the world. And I think that his transformation in that weekend was one thing, but your guys was just absolutely phenomenal to be like, right, well, yeah, this is going to be tough, but we're here, we're meeting the challenge, and basically bring it on is what you guys said. And it was so cool for all of us to watch and see you kind of head home going, yeah, we've got it. It's going to be tough, but we're absolutely going to kind of get the bull by the horns, as so to speak.
Oh, thank you. And you got us off lead on a social walk for the first ever time on the residential, and you caught it on camera as well. So now I've got this like delightful little clip of myself just like overcome with joy in these few moments that Milo was off lead in this giant sort of pack of 30 dogs. That I can always look back on. So it's such a nice little memory to be able to keep.
So get us up to speed then. You headed home to Newcastle, you've chipped away, and what does life look like for you guys now?
Um, so when we got back, we've been through a series of changes with Milo. So initially on his behavioral modification, we were using some medication to help him learn new things. So we've had a number of weeks tapering him off that, and he's been completely off that for about 5 or 6 weeks now. Um, while we've been helping him to learn the new desirable behaviors that we want him to show, we have been mixing in sort of 3 or 4 neutral and social walks a week wherever we can. So the big worry I had leaving the residential was that we wouldn't be able to keep up with the level of exposure that we needed to make the new behaviors stick. Um, but I'm very, very fortunate that close to me, I've got some really good friends from the Honest Hounds community who knew that I was coming on the retreat, who were actually messaging me each night, being like, "What did they say about Milo today? Tell us what you need to do when you get home, and we'll meet up with you." So, literally, first weekend back from the residential, I was on a walk with them, and they were just spurring us on. Um, so yeah, our life now with Milo looks like a ton of exposure, a lot of guidance to show him the behaviors that we want him to use. Um, but on a reducing scale. So he is getting those little snippets of autonomy now. So I think coming on the residential, a goal for us by the end of the year was to have him off lead on a social walk. And it became a reality literally in the weekend. And now we're doing all these exposure walks for him. Um, and he's on at least a long line, if not completely dropped or off lead, depending on the pack dynamic and if there's any other dogs that he's going to find particularly challenging to be appropriate around. So life for Milo now has a huge amount of freedom in it and a huge amount of trust. And a huge amount of fun for us and him because we're having those snippets of the life that we wanted, like the walks on the beach where you're not constantly checking behind you for who's coming, where you're actually trusting him to just engage with you and do the fun thing that you want him to do. So it really feels like we're on a really strong upward trajectory with him at the moment.
Love that. That's amazing. And I guess it's such an interesting one for you guys because we did have such key characteristics in his breed, and we've got a great clip of him. We actually used it for the dog trainer course of him with Jess Williams. I'll have to send it to you so you know which one I mean. But he's outwardly barking and he's kind of in that defender mode, but there's such a question mark on it. He's like, I'm telling you to stay away, but this doesn't really feel like who I am as a guy here, and I don't really want this character. And obviously we spoke to you guys a lot about behavior archetypes and the role that he was taking on. And I guess a key part of your journey was finding that ability, as you say, to refine your partnership and step into that role that he needed from you guys. But was that something that came naturally? Was it a process for you as much as him? How did you step up?
Yeah, it didn't come naturally at all. Actually, it went the leader that I've had to become for Milo kind of goes against my reason for getting a dog in the first place, and in a lot of ways goes against, sorry, my own character. So Milo, because he will quite happily step into that role of defender and be very inappropriate and be very sort of postury and perhaps if he's not starting the fight, he is absolutely ready to finish it.
Mhm.
That's definitely true of Milo. So I've I've had to change my approach with him from being a very sort of nurturing, caring owner who wants him to be my emotional support animal. I think that a lot of people have that as a motivation for getting a dog in the first place, don't they? That
He
make
tells us it's all about. Literally,
yeah.
it's like, come on in, have a lovely companion.
Yeah, they'll always make you feel better in every situation.
They come in for years, and you're like, what? This is a lie.
Yeah. So I've had to change how I am with him almost entirely and learn to stand my ground with him and be quite firm with him and even change how my tone with him. So rather than um rather than sort of build up his ego and add more sort of excitement into his already quite sort of overwhelmed state. I have to be quite calming and soothing for Milo and be quite an assertive owner. But although although I'm sort of becoming something different to be the best owner for him, um, might need a bit of a do-over of saying this, Jessie. So what I'm trying to say is that in changing myself to be the right type of owner for Milo, um, I'm getting so much more out of our partnership, and it's a really empowering way to live with your dog. And I think he does have a bit of a tester character in him as well as a defender character. Also a great combination. What did I do?
Really looked out.
Yeah. Yeah, so it actually feels great to know how to put his archetype to good use and how to work with it. It's great to have that sort of back and forth with your dog rather than just being stuck in that mindset of, oh, but I have this expectation of what it should be like to have a dog and you're not meeting it. Well, I have to change my expectation for what our life together is and embrace what he needs it to be and enjoy doing new things together. Like you mentioned, the obedience. He can learn a new trick in a matter of minutes. It's so cool. And he's so driven to work and he's got such a high drive in play as well. Um, and I get such a better feeling out of seeing him really embrace and enjoy our play together than I ever would have with like sobbing on him and having him be my emotional support dog when work gets a bit stressful. Like this is a much better way to live together.
I think it's just such I've got goosebumps. Ooh. I think it's amazing because you've managed to find a dynamic for both of you that has allowed you well, him to probably keep living if we're not being dramatic because he was a very powerful boy with some kind of strong intentions, but actually the place that you guys have taken it to in quite a short space of time. Like we're only in May now. Also, realistically that shift is huge and it's a complete testament to the fact that you've gone we're getting back we're doing 4 or 5 walks a week that allow us to continue our training. This is very specific. You guys have been all in and it's absolutely amazing to see that you've had this shift and you're learning to like truly enjoy him for who he is. I think is just incredible and not one to be played down at all because it would be easy to slip back into oh, we'll just do the minimum and, "Oh, I don't really wanna get out in the rain and do a play session with him," and all of the excuses that we can come up with as humans, but it's just so cool to see you guys be able to go, "This is the hand that we were dealt, and yet so surely would not have asked for this breed and this blend of characteristics as my first dog that I brought home," but actually, what a cool place and what an inspiration that you've become for people who are kind of navigating the waters of having a bigger, more powerful breed and being able to absolutely use it to the best that you can. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, he's got that sort of stubborn mastiff quality in him, but I feel like I'm just saying to him, well, I'm going to be more stubborn than you. And like, we are going to turn this around and you are going to have autonomy, whether you like it or not. Side note, you'll definitely like it. So just do what I ask you to do.
The program, it's much better over here.
Yeah, totally.
So what are you guys looking forward to then? You've met your off lead goal, you've ticked that off. So what's exciting for the future?
Um, so we are going on the Wilderness Adventure Weekend at the end of July with Jess. So we're really, really excited about that. And then we've got a series of family holidays. So I suppose I don't know if there's a specific thing, but now I'm kind of just excited on a daily basis to step out into the world and use all of the knowledge that we've accumulated and make each experience the best it can be, or if he's going to have an off day, or if I'm going to have an off day, make it into a learning experience. So I was on a really busy beach this weekend actually, just gone, and I was just like checking in with myself. And I noticed, like, do I feel relaxed? Like, am I having a nice time? Am I not paying attention to what's going on? So I'm just really, really looking forward to more of that. And I think people notice you when you're sort of having a nice time with your dog, even if it is a muzzled dog. And it led quite a few people this last weekend just to say, wow, what a beautiful dog. Can I come and say hello? Like, he's so lovely. And Milo's got a bit of an aversion to strangers as well. So in those moments, I'm now much more confident and able to just say, well, it's probably best if you don't stroke him, but I'll give you a handful of treats because he's working on stranger danger. So would you mind feeding him instead? So there isn't a specific thing I can pinpoint that I'm really excited for in the future. It's just doing more and unlocking what he has the potential to become once we've created all of those really positive associations and built up that anticipation that it's actually positive things around the corner, not things we need to be incredibly wary about.
Amazing. The thing you're looking forward to is the future, which is very cool. I love that. I'm excited to see all these holidays. His like boy on tour.
Oh, I know. He's got it made. Gets taken to all kinds of great places.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, as is typical with this podcast, we always end with a quick fire round. So I'm going to throw some questions at you, and whatever pops into your head is up first. So my first question is your favorite thing about Milo?
I think it's his drive, it's his willingness to do the thing that you asked him to do and get the reward. And he does it so quickly. If you say lie down, he's like on the floor in the blink of an eye. Everything that he does is so fast and so extreme, but I just absolutely love it. He's so much fun to work with. So yeah, definitely his drive. Um, and obviously his great looks as well, because he's a
Oh,
very handsome boy. And
boy.
that's how he reeled us in the first place.
What is his favorite thing to do?
Favorite thing to do? I mean, it's a bit of a predictable answer, but it's definitely eating. Like she just loves food. There's nothing I've never found anything that he'll turn his nose up at. When we need to medicate him, he just eats the medicine like uncovered. So he just absolutely loves to eat. Yeah.
Love that. What a super boy. It's like,
Yeah.
snacks, please. Okay, your favorite training item. So it can be absolutely anything that you think helps you most on your journey.
I think for us, there's no question that it has to be the muzzle because we couldn't do anything that we need to do without it. We couldn't safely do the exposure to other dogs. The stranger danger feeding couldn't happen. Um, it's just the most empowering and useful tool. And the other side of it is the anxiety that it lifts off you as an owner when you're using it because you've built in that safety measure that it can't go that wrong.
Yeah.
So and that has such a transformational effect just on a day-to-day basis out and about. I used to be able to tell that I was sort of feeding feelings of anxiety from myself through the lead into Milo, put a muzzle on him, and all those sort of worries and anxieties are gone.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's a very underestimated tool. But yeah, I love that. Okay. So everyone has their different traits and characteristics that make them the best dog owner possible. So what is your dog owner superpower?
Hmm. Maybe sort of a combination of patience and stubbornness. So I'm willing to let him fail and I'm willing for the mind modification journey to take however long it needs to take. And I'm committed to enjoying it every sort of step of the way and noticing all the wins. So there's the patient side, but then the stubborn side is that we won't be giving up until we get all the way there.
Yeah, I wish we could bottle that. That would be a great one to pass on to everyone.
I don't have it every day, but I can get it back usually.
One thing you wish you'd known since day one of bringing Milo home.
That every interaction matters. That he's learning something about me from every decision I make and every interaction that I have with him. And if I could go back in time and have that first day of him in the house again and retake that opportunity to bring him into the household and show him this is the structure that you follow when you're here. This is how we get it right from not the get-go, because he was 10, 11 months old, but from as early as we possibly could have. That would have been incredible for our journey. So yeah, understanding how much all the little nuances of everything add up to an informed picture of who you are as the owner and the role that they need to fill as the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question for you is one thing that you would say to someone who is still struggling on their journey.
Quite a big question, isn't it? I feel a sudden sense of responsibility to say the right thing. To trust the process, because it's proven to work in so many different cases. You guys have got an amazing track record of success with countless dogs with all kinds of behavioral issues. So definitely to trust the process, but also to enjoy the journey once you set out on it. So don't be fixated on your end goal. No, it's possible to get there, but enjoy the process to arriving.
And I think that you guys are doing that better than most. So well done. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.